Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where the orchard of wisdom shows are at your fingertips. It ignites your soul, your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your body with illumination from people who have made the journey before you. They're here now to help you on your journey, on your path of self-discovery. We are funded by you, the audience, and the people we interview. If you wish to support us, please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com and press on our Fund Action button. Anything is appreciated. We'd like you to sit back and enjoy the shows. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest, originally from Sweden, is Ebba Karlsson. Oh, modeling, you want to be a model. Oh, and it sounds such a glorious and glamorous life. But do you know the other side of modeling, the dark side? She's written a book called The True Starlight, From Living in the Shadows to Being Stellar. She's chosen to live positively, but it wasn't always like that. Her modeling career got derailed due to a sexual assault at a major modeling agency. Her work to help prevent victims in the fashion industry and society at large is what she's doing now. She survived as a teenage suicide attempt while being raised in a dysfunctional home, and a battle to step outside of the shadows of a pro golfer husband during their 23 years together. She's come together to discover her deep spiritual secrets of knowledge and to get beyond the life-limiting beliefs that anything that can block you from achieving. But we are going to be talking about what really did happen. She says that the sexual assault at the age of 20 while on a job interview in 1990 with Gerald Marie, the president at the time of the internationally renowned elite modeling agency, which represented supermodels like Cindy Crawford and Kate Moss. She also alleges that her rape was by a fashion model scout who introduced her to Marie, despite other models claiming similar aggregations. Oh, sorry, can't get around that word today. It was overlooked and dismissed. And this is not the way we're going to do business today, folks. We're going to hold people accountable. But it's the backlash that happened, and it never should be the backlash. When somebody has been treated like this, they always should be heard. And we have now got a society where we really do need to listen. It's extremely important that we do so. People think, well, 1990, well, you know, things were different back in those days. Yes, they were. They got away with it. We were just talking a moment ago about Nygaard and what he's got away from going back to the 70s. We look at the Einstein, Weinsteins and Epstein's and a number of others out there that for so long they felt entitled. And that if you wanted to be a model or an actress or anyone else, or just to be in their presence, you had to give it up. And this is absolutely taboo today. We're not going to put up with it anymore. But I bet when you went into the modeling world, you didn't expect that.
No, I did not. And I must say, I am probably representing of the victims. I'm representing the woman who didn't have an agency. I didn't have anybody representing me.
Right.
I was literally picked up on the street and promised a vacation job. And so many of my fellow victims were actually already involved in their agency, and they were sent to this famous organization where they were abused without their own agency not knowing. We don't know if they knew, but
yeah.
So I am the one that represents the girl who wanted to be the next Cindy Crawford and thought that I could be that. And we need more of me coming forward, because I'm sure I'm definitely not the only one. So yes, thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Wish it was under different circumstances, but we are going to make this positive because, out of every adversity, that struggle to become, not to be scarred or defined by the actions of others, being imposed upon you. They always say things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it's up to us what we do with it, right? And if people don't speak up, then it's something that we're still giving them permission to do. So the courage to speak up against it, even in a society that is going to slam you, because they do, right? That it takes a great deal of courage, but it is placing value upon you, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And I think one of the reasons why I decided to come forward was really my own spiritual journey, how I knew that my path to become a coach and help other people, I needed to be really authentic and brutally honest with myself. So I just decided to pour that out of myself. And originally, before I started writing my book, I meant to write a coaching book. But my editor, she said, you need to write your memoir, because it's just, that's how it starts flowing. And that's what happened. So I started writing the whole story from my childhood and onwards. And in that journey, I discovered more and more who I was, and that I wasn't a victim anymore, but I actually was victorious.
Yes,
And
I like that. Victorious, definitely. We only stay a victim if we choose to. We may have been victimized, but we choose to be the victim or not to be the victim.
Absolutely.
But we have to take a journey to get to there, don't we?
Yes. And I think the journey is what's so amazing, because the journey in itself is really discovering who we are, and it doesn't have an end. It really is just expanding. And I think even today, sometimes when I talk to my fellow survivors, I can still feel like, oh, there's another layer to discover.
Yes.
There's another part of me that is still not healed, even if I thought so. So it's a constant discovery of who I am, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes, I mean, that is what this journey of life is all about, is to discover who you are, what you're here to do, what is your contribution, what's your beautiful instrument. And it's through the, adversity, the challenges of our own self-discovery, of our own self-worth, of our own meaningful purpose, that sometimes, it's a hard road to take. Yeah. But in surviving that road and thriving that road, right, thriving because of it, we discover our courage, we discover our strength, we discover our abilities, and then we really discover what really is important. And why did we get into those situations? Because we trusted the wrong people. We trusted society, right? That society would look after us. But there's always something within ourselves too, that we look for people to notice us, and they prey on that. And why do we look for people to notice us? Because we're feeling insecure. Why are we feeling insecure? Because of the way we're brought up, right? Things that happen to us as children, or society that puts the pressure on us. And we just want to be seen for who we are, but we're in discovery of that. And so the vultures out there will take advantage of that. I'll show you who you are, right? And in that discovery, it is like, okay, but there's a hell of a price to pay.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that longing to become something, or to have what we think it means to be a celebrity, and to be looked upon like for more, really, or having everything, it's such a great illusion. I think when we have been on the other side and achieved the money, we achieved the fame, we achieved the everything that we long for, we know that, well, that didn't really make me more happier.
Yes,
it was a short glimpse of happiness, but that, since it's not really real happiness, it's happiness that comes from the outside and not from the inside. It's short-lived, right? So
yes,
we have to come to the understanding that happiness is also a choice all the way through, and seeing the gifts and everything, seeing that everything that's an obstacle is actually what can make me really happy, if I take the opportunity and see the gift in the challenge.
But it's also to see the opportunity. If you've become a victim and you get stuck in the victim mode, you don't realize there's opportunity there. and it is opportunity to become or to stand up for something, or to, to say, no, I am not going to be that person that you've labeled me. And it's an opportunity of our own self-discovery. And if we just choose not to kind of look down on ourselves, I think one of the worst things we could do, we assume everybody else is persecuting us, but really the person persecuting us the most is ourselves.
Yes, that's very, very true. And that takes some consciousness to realize that, because I think we want to continue blaming, we want to continue judging, we want to continue playing victim in certain extent, because it's a comfort zone. It's something that's familiar, and it's something that's also very accepted and encouraged in this to a certain extent by society. And because society as a whole don't really want free thinkers and don't really want strong people, because they can't be controlled.
They're
So
not
at the
sheeple bearing along.
exactly. So I think that's something that it's really important, especially today, because I think at least in the modern history, we're so geared and programmed to become sheep and not free thinkers. From the moment we take our first breath, we're already being programmed, even inside a mother's womb.
Yeah. Well, and ancestry, the DNA, even past lives, everything is programmed there.
Definitely.
Until we look at that programming and going, does it serve me? Now, we will look at that on our computer. We'll look at that if our car is not running well. We'll look at it at everything else. But we seem to either ignore or are too scared to look at what programs inside of me need to be deleted.
That's so good. But it takes awareness to come there. Like I feel for myself to understand that I even had a choice. I had to have some kind of conscious awareness of that. And I think that's perhaps why we choose to have an accident, or choose to have something chaotic happening in our life, so we can see the contrast and wake up and say, well, what really happened now, and how do I deal with this? So I like to say that rather than running away from the negative and what's uncomfortable, try to just go forward and say yes to it, because I find that the more that I say yes to these things, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make myself free.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that's really what it is all about, is freedom.
Freedom of choice, to choose for ourselves, to be able to say yes or no, and for it to be respected. Respect is earned, but we have to respect ourselves first before we expect anybody else to respect us.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's hard when you've been so conditioned to, for years perhaps, not to honor yourself, not to listen to yourself, and maybe even been conditioned with violence, sexual abuse or verbal abuse, whatever kind of abuse, then that's very, very dangerous to think that you are valuable, to think that I can choose and say no. For me, it was deeply conditioned to say no. It was just not something I did. And I think in my society, even as a Swedish person, saying no is frowned upon a bit, because we are the free society, we're equal, and everybody, and it's a bubble in itself, because if you want to do a different choice than everybody else, you're not very popular. So that's something that everybody needs to weigh within themselves. That what is the most important thing? Is it that I honor and myself and what I feel is true, or is it that I continue following because it's comfortable?
Yes. Again, back to the sheeple, and it is the only person that knows what is right for you is you. You are living with yourself 24/7. You can run as much as you like, but you can't outrun yourself. There is no escape. At some point, you're going to have to turn around and really look in and take that empowerment, nurture yourself. It comes to nurturing. Now, you didn't have a smooth childhood. So before you can heal the adult, you have to go back and heal the child.
Yeah. And that's for some people, it's hard to do, because they don't have the tools. So we have to figure out what are the tools that work for me, because we don't always have the same kind of tools because of our programming. So, but I think the best tool we can have is to go into our heart and feel. I think to use our sensory organs rather than sometimes the five senses. Five senses are what we see and hear is not always the truth. So,
yes.
and so we have to tune inside to feel more and to be able to understand, I think, is this really my truth, or is this somebody else's truth that I'm living in right now?
Right. And I would say, go into your sixth sense as well. Trust that intuition, trust that divine presence. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with an energy that is more powerful than you, and that we can channel as a wisdom that can guide us forward. But it can't speak through a closed heart. And I think one of the big things that happens to anybody that's gone through any form of abuse, they shut the heart down in order to protect it. But that's the worst thing you can do, because that blocks you from healing and also allows you to be more of a victim as well.
Yeah, it's so true. And then we keep repeating the same thing over and over, because we also created opiates that we get addicted to.
Yes.
Hence we create the same drama over again, and thinking, why can I create with law of attraction?
Right.
Well, maybe I need to look at those things that
send
I'm
out a different
to.
vibe, right? Yeah. Change your frequency. That's the important thing. Is and a lot of people have kind of said, it's easy, you've just got to do this, take my program, blah 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 blah. And it's the best teachers are those that have gone through it, because you relate, you're speaking from, what that pain is. You can speak to the pain without feeling the pain anymore, right? But you know exactly how it felt and what you did. All we can do as teachers, guiders, coaches, whatever, is share what we did. These are the skills, these are the tools. But how people apply them, what they do with them, is their choice.
Yeah.
And so you can't help them unless they're willing to help themselves.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think it's exactly what you say. It's how do we get there? How do we create, how can we remind people of what they already know, and not telling them that this is the truth, because it's not, it's my truth.
Yes.
And if it resonates with you, great. But if it doesn't, that's, that's their person's choice and their journey and how they have to understand things. Doesn't mean that I know better.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of coaching today, I think have experienced that through many years, even in the spiritual community and coaching community, where people think they have the right answer, and instead of being authentic, as you said, and talking and speaking from the heart, sometimes we want to apply what we think is the right formula, and that can actually make it even worse for some people.
Yeah.
And I think that happened to me. And I really, my longing to be free was so strong that I was ready to compromise with everything. As soon as I met somebody that was really powerful and strong in their energy, I wanted what they had. So I stretched myself. I made choices that was really, really hard. But I can see now that I needed that experience to understand what I don't want to do.
Yes. Yeah, and that's sometimes, that is, last week I did a show about milestones, and that, people don't look back, just keep going forward. And now no, I say look back, because it shows you how far you've gone, or it shows you that perhaps you've got stuck in a certain area that you need to address. But, reflection of what has been, it shows you where you are, shows you what you still need to do. And it's an encouragement of, taking those further steps. My show this week is prioritize. right? And it's like you have a goal. I want to be this, I want to do that. But some people, they're so busy on the journey to achieve that, they don't realize that's not the journey they're meant to be on,
Mm.
right?
That's very, very true.
If
Very
I'm
true.
successful, if I am rich, if I am famous, then people will respect me.
Mm.
And then really it's an avoidance to go in and heal yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And that's
Because
so true. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the abuse takes place, the abuse to oneself. And to be honest, that's why I always been saying that my goal in this criminal case against this man, my dream was to go into court and look him into the eyes and say, I forgive you.
yeah,
Because I wanted to be free. It's
yeah,
not that I don't, I'm not saying that I agree to what he did at
yeah,
all.
yeah. Forgiveness is
It's,
not condoning.
no,
No, it's
absolutely not.
releasing. Yeah,
Yes, but just to have that the power over myself, to
yeah,
be able to say, I forgive you, because I want also to see his face.
yeah,
Like I want to see what would his reaction be,
yeah.
um, if I didn't carry judgment, if I didn't carry, hate, grief, shame, guilt, all
Yes,
these
yes,
emotions. And I think about that actually a lot. And I really want to encourage survivors to move beyond the hate and the shame and the grief and all these emotions. But the only way to do that is to go through them. There's no
yeah.
other way
No,
to
no.
come to forgiveness without actually having really honestly looked at oneself and then one's feelings. Mm.
But we've also got to know that in our ignorance or our society's conditioning, we put ourselves in that position to be abused. And when we take on that accountability, and no blame, no shame, it was just naivety or the conditioning of society, right? We put ourselves in a position that now these other people think they're entitled,
Mm.
right? And it was not an invitation to them. Being in that position was not an invitation to them. They took it upon themselves. That's their onus. Our
Mm.
onus is perhaps that we were too innocent or too naive to walk into these situations without realizing what we were walking into or thinking that somebody else had our back. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a lesson in life is that we may walk with other people, and I'm huge on community. I'm huge on people coming together and sharing. But my analogy is to be a part of the orchestra, you must know your instrument and
Mm.
you must play your instrument well so that you can come in harmony to that orchestra, to serve that
Mm.
orchestra. So when we look at what's happened to us, it is like, oh God, I was so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Or I shouldn't have been in that position. Or I shouldn't have done this and I shouldn't have done that. And you're going to go for the all shouldn't haves. And the thing is, you knew what you knew at the time that you knew it. Now you know better. You won't put yourself in that situation again.
Mm.
Forgive yourself
Mm.
for not knowing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then
No, it's
that
big.
person took advantage of you because of that situation. And that's why you can forgive them, because they
Mm-hmm.
were getting the wrong signals. But the fact that they were tuned into that signal of taking advantage of you in the first place is something they have to own.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so well said. I think that's very, very important to be able to move forward and to realize. But I also like the orchestra, as you said, like it is also when we need to realign
Yes.
ourselves from a traumatic experience or from any experience. Sometimes we have to go play our own tunes.
Yes.
So we have to leave the orchestra to be able to come back and with a new perspective.
Mm.
And I think sometimes the universe pushes us out so we can be alone, so
Yeah.
we can find that own tune, that unique frequency that we all have to be able to play well in the
Mm.
orchestra.
Yeah.
Mm.
A lot of people kind of refer to things as dark times. And I've certainly been in the darkness, and there was a speck of light that I could never quite get to. And it took me about 8 years to come out of. And then you get out into the light and it feels very, very blinding, and you feel the shadows are chasing you. The idea is to get to a point where you can go into the darkness peacefully and be the light that you seek. But
Yes.
there is a process to that. The darkness is not out to get you, right? If you are that beacon of light in that darkness, you're always shedding light on it. It is the unknown or the unsure or the what we're afraid of. You know, love and fear, it's not love and hate. Fear is what breeds hate, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think the analogy of coming more into the light, our shadow gets bigger if we put, you know, and I think that's so true, that it can seem like it's so dark, and we want to run away from that because we're not familiar, we're not used to working with a shadow or feeling the pain, and there's a judgment on that too. It has been, maybe it's getting out now, it's more easier, but it certainly has been. You're supposed to be positive. You're supposed to think positive thoughts, and you cannot, you know, you have to straighten up and
fake it
don't feel
until
sorry.
you make it.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Like, but it's such a betrayal, really, because in that darkness we will find the light.
And realize we are the light.
Exactly.
Always have been. And when we step into that light, we're now showing other people, we're shedding light on other people's darkness to show them where their switch is.
Yes.
They've got to switch it on, but we're showing them where the switch is, or you know, plug it in.
Yeah. I think it's happening though. I can see there's the awakening, or whatever you want to call it. It's definitely happening, and even though when we watch media and we watch TV, we're fed different things. So I think that's important to disconnect from that and just go out in nature and say, wow, it's actually a beautiful world out there. And
we don't see the beauty when we're being victimized. And I was with my kids this last weekend celebrating my grandson's first birthday, and the whole family was there, which was wonderful. And on one of the nights, I had been talking about the movie Bombshell. So they decided to watch it. So I watched it again, which is a true story, you know, about Wadra and Madoff and you know, the whole thing at Fox News, you know, the leg man, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, people would think, well, how do these people allow themselves to get into that abuse? Or they just wanted to be on TV and famous, so they asked for it. No, please put your judgment aside. They wanted to do a job that a man does not have to wear a miniskirt for or do any sexual act on anybody to get into a position. So why is a woman condemned for wanting to achieve something? Why is there a double standard? And the more we see these movies, the more people like yourself come and talk out, the more it is like, don't think that because we're a woman that we're not allowed to be ambitious, or we're not allowed to go after something. We're not allowed to be excellence in our own lives, and that we can only do it through the masters and the puppet strings. No, those days are over. We're not accepting that anymore. And all of your Einsteins, Weinsteins, and everything other Steins, sorry, exit.
Yeah, and it's also very important to talk about that it's not only women who are being sexually abused. It's I have I met a lot of men lately who have been sexually molested and abused as well, but that's even more taboo. That's something that's very taboo to talk about, but it's necessary because it's not about men and women. It's more about the energy of the oppressor, and that could be a woman too. It can be a very masculine woman who uses it. So and even violence in homes by women. So and we can see, so it's really a shift, I think, in consciousness. We need to open up our eyes and see that what we're doing right now is bringing in consciousness on a grander scale through sharing our stories and becoming aware of what power versus force really is. And how can we change consciousness by allowing everybody to have a voice and holding space for each and everybody who has a story to share. and listen, because
Yes.
people are so busy with their own agendas, they don't have ears to listen with.
No.
They
Or
all
hearts
need
to
to listen.
listen with.
Yes,
You
I
know?
agree.
I
We
mean,
have
you
to
may
have
hear the
ears
words,
and
but
hearts.
unless your heart is feeling something, you don't care.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we want you to care. We don't want you to pick up the violin and go, oh, I feel so sorry for you. We want you to be outraged. No, this has to stop.
Mm.
Right? I'm
Mhm.
sorry this happened to you. We've got to make sure that we don't walk around with blinders. You have no idea how many people of sexual abuse, both men and women, that I have interviewed over the years. I've been doing this 10 years, and it is quite mind-boggling of the amount of sexual abuse going on, from incest to priests to, you know, teachers to babysitters to, you know, people in the industry, across the board, of what it has been. And to think that other human beings will do this to another human being, to exploit them in this way, it is a negative vibration that we've been resonating on for way too long.
Yeah.
And the universe is asking us to rise up in our frequency. Step into kindness, step into caringness, step into love. It's a higher vibrational frequency that scientists now can measure those that live in that higher realm of spirituality, of love, and understand that's where things grow.
Yes.
That's where things are created. If we, again, like an algorithm, we stop feeding the negativity and hold that negativity accountable and say, rise up, rise up. We're not going to accept that darkness anymore. Rise up to a higher frequency. You do not have permission to pull me down.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to communicate with me is to rise up. You know, this is the tide that we're turning at the moment of that. This is the way it's got to be. I don't care, man, woman, binary, or whatever else you are. Human being, heart to heart. What containment we're in, what package we're in, what religion, faith, economic, sex, or anything else we're in, is just the package that we've come in this lifetime. Connect with the heart and the soul of a person and truly see the enrichment that lies there, and stop exploiting, because those that exploit are generally people that are feeling a great deal of lack in themselves.
Absolutely. And but also using them as our mirrors and asking ourselves, in what areas do I exploit myself?
Yes.
And because I think as long as we just look at the outside and look at them, we need to use them as our mirrors and say, where do I think that's the way it can stop. It's when each and everybody looks at their own judgment, and really takes that to the deepest level of oneself.
Well, you can put a boundary, but it doesn't have to be a border. Right? You know, I am resonating on this frequency. This is my self-love.
Yes.
If you can honor me in that self-love, I am open.
Yeah,
right?
That's beautiful.
But I am not going to lower myself into your vibration to feed your lack. And, you know, there's in my own coaching, there's a thing I used to do of a ruler. I know I'm talking rulers, not matrix, but you know, and the 6 to 12 inch are the people that have chosen to step into positivity, you know, live into that energy. And you had your 4 and 5s that are in discovery of that energy. They're waking up to it. They know it's a better place to be. But you have your 1 to 3s that are the piranhas. They don't want to do the work. They want to keep pointing the finger. It's that person, the society, it's this and that. The 3 pointing back at them. They're not going to take accountability or do the work that's necessary to step up into that. So they attack the 4 and 5s and suck the energy right out of them. Right? So we need to protect those 4 and 5s that have chosen to rise up to a higher level. Protect them while they're in that healing until they get to a point of that security where they can't be pulled down. Because the people that make the choice to not heal themselves, to keep exploiting others for their own pain, and we see this with narcissists, it's everybody else's fault. It's never their own. They will never take accountability. They don't know how to do it. So we need to protect those people that are saying, I want to heal from the inside out. I will take that responsibility. that commitment to invest in myself.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's at the same time, I always think about how can we do more? How can I do more? How can I say it in a way so there's something that awakens within the person, so they start peeling that onion or whatever.
Yes.
And it's fascinating, and I think this is something we need to figure out, because of course everybody's is good deep inside. We all have that, and is it, what kind of techniques can we come up with that really just shatters that program? And of course there are many tools out there and we can use, but I think one of my own stories was my mom, who was an alcoholic, and she was very violent with me. And the day that I really looked into her eyes and I decided to see her soul, and even though she was spitting and being furious and angry and really possessed, like demonic, and I just looked into her and I said, I see that soul, I see that beauty, and that's what I'm choosing to see. Since that day, she had no more power over me. And since that day, her whole life has changed, actually, because it takes two to tango.
Yes, it does.
So but I now, like, I see her, she's 82 and she's such a beautiful angel. It's totally different kind of person. And I think the more we can choose to see the positive within each and everyone, that's how we change the world.
You referred in your bio, kind of being in the shadows of your husband, a professional golfer. And it's, that is not his problem in a sense, because you hadn't found your light to be of equal light, right? And very often we feel, okay, this, my spouse is bigger and brighter, nobody sees me. But if people don't see us, it's because we're choosing not to be seen, right? And
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you have to match their light, just be your own light.
Yeah,
for your own reason.
It's so true. But I was terrified of that. I was terrified of showing up and being, because I felt like, what's going to happen if I fully step into myself? And when I started dancing and started exploring that energy of being a sensual woman on a dance floor, it was terrifying. And I thought that people would hate me. And but gradually, it's baby steps. We have to be gentle with ourselves. And
we love confident people. We love people who own themselves, who say, this is me, take me or leave me. I am going to be this exuberant person. We love people who are like that because we want to be like them. Right? And where we turn this hate in on ourselves is that I can't be that person. Well, the only person holding you back is you.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And but that, again, like encouraging people to come forward and in the right way, the right way. It's not power over anybody, but power within you, and and taking not control, I don't like that word, but allowing oneself to be fully
immersed.
Immersed is it's a great word. I love that word.
You talked about the sensuality, and I have another show called Sensual Expressions, and a lot of people think it's all about sex. It's about actually being tuned into our senses. And when we are tuned into our senses, a sense of sight, smell, sound, of touch, of our inner beautiful divine intuition coming out, when we're immersed in those senses, we see life through totally different lenses, and we see actually the beauty. I've looked at that tree a million times and I've never seen it so beautiful. It's not the tree didn't change, we changed the way we looked at the tree.
I love that. Yeah.
So we need to change those lenses, don't
we? We do. And it's not that hard when you start trying. It actually, it can be done. People quicker than we think.
Oh yeah, it's a question. Do we allow ourselves? Can we get out of our own fear and just say, I'm going to take this step? And I've had people say to me, but my heart is so guarded and so closed, I don't know how to open it again. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you an exercise. Go into nature.
Mm.
You know, watch the birds making a nest. Watch the puppy dogs running around with a ball or a stick. Watch a kid discovering the forest or on the beach or just running around enjoying the sunlight, the parents enjoying the children. Be around people of laughter, of joy,
Mm.
and realize that all the joy you need is simply around you.
Mm.
And let it open up your heart one crack at a time.
Mm. Beautiful. Beautiful. That makes me want to go out and hug a tree.
Trees do
Oh,
speak to us, you know, we've
oh,
just
they
got to
do.
listen.
They do. I love trees. Mm. Yes.
But we put obstacles in front of ourselves, don't we? Yes, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it is sometimes we don't know how, or we don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that worked for you, but I don't think it will work for me. And
Mm-hmm.
well, why
Exactly.
not? You know,
I hear
it's
that a lot. You're
yeah,
so much stronger than I am.
yeah,
No, I'm not. I
right.
just decided to do
Mm.
steps. Like, for instance, small steps. Whatever you think is challenging in the morning. Like I have a pool and it's freezing to I was gonna swear, but I didn't. But it's very, very
It's
cold.
blooming,
Yes.
freezing.
And I know that if I don't go in there, I feel sluggish. But if I go in there and I swim,
Mm.
and I feel so amazing afterwards. So really doing something every day that's out of,
Uncomfortable.
yeah, that's a little
Yeah,
uncomfortable, that stretches us a little
yeah,
bit. Then suddenly one day when we're faced with the issue, it's like, wow, that I didn't feel that. That's not a
yeah,
biggie. I can go and
yes.
do this. So it's the little challenges are so good.
Mm.
Mm.
And then, as I said, the reflection back, I had this wonderful weekend with the whole my family and celebrating, and my ex was there. And we've been apart 21 years, the father, and who's the granddad. So it was nice to have the whole family there. And there was a little spat from him, which kind of reminded me why it was 21 years that we've been apart. But it was also a reminder of how far I've come. I used to live with that and live terrified in that, not knowing
Mm.
when it was coming. And here I am 21 years moved forward, that when the spat came, I just smiled.
Wow.
And my kid said, take that elsewhere. And
Oh,
it was just not, sorry, not allowed. We don't need that energy. Take it outside, come back in when you feel more equilibrium.
yeah.
And it was so good not to have it affect me, right?
Mm.
Whereas in the past, it would have had me, by the,
Yeah.
and and that's what I'm saying about looking back to see how far you've come,
Mm.
right? I
That's important.
chose to go out of a marriage that was extremely repressing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
That's
was
the
really difficult to do, right? But I decided to place enough value on myself and do it. Was
mm,
it easy? No. Did I trip and
mm,
fall and run into other roadblocks and mistakes? Yes. But did
mm.
I get back up again each time? Yes. And that's really the point, isn't it?
It really is. And I love that. I love that symbolism of the phoenix
Mm,
horizon,
yes.
and we can rise as much as we want. There
Yes.
is no limit to,
No.
we only put limits on ourselves. But to add what you just said is something that I think about a lot, to catch myself when I suddenly don't feel good during the day. Perhaps I'm suddenly, why do I suddenly not feel
Mm,
happy? And then I have to track down my choices and follow what happened that launched the cycle of events. So I track down and say, oh, that's because I had expectations, and
hmm.
something happened with that expectations that
Yeah.
wasn't it didn't happen the way I thought it would. So that's when I was a little disappointed, and it was tiny,
Yes.
but it's
It's
just,
enough, right, to
but
grow.
that, like, oh my gosh, I see it now. Yes.
Yes.
you know
But that's a big
mm.
word you've brought up, expectations, because we do put expectations on ourselves. Like,
Mm.
okay, if I immerse myself into this program, I'm going to be this. And then you get there and you go, but I'm not this, so I have failed because you've
Yeah.
had too high expectation. We have
Mm-hmm.
to go back to just allowing ourselves, like we look at various trees coming alive in the spring right now. There's some here in Victoria, we have some beautiful blossom trees. We have other trees that are still naked. They haven't yet bloomed, right? And everything will happen in its own time. You just have to allow, you just have to nurture, you just have to be present,
Mm.
right? And keep
Yeah.
participating, and it will be when it will be. Don't put down time levels. Don't put down expectations, because that's setting yourself up to fail
Yeah.
or feel a failure.
So true. So true. And still, like, keep going, not giving up,
Yeah.
and keep your dreams alive. And even if they don't show up the way you thought they would, still honoring yourself, honoring your dreams, and expanding. Like, what else can we do? What else can I
Yes.
do with this
You know,
life?
I'm
And
pivoting. Okay, this was a roadblock. All right, I can't get through there. But what does that mean? I stop? No, it means you turn around and look for another road.
yeah, I love that.
So
Yeah.
you've written the book about your life, your memoir. Now,
hmm
on the cover, there is you and who else,
That's my ex-husband, Robert.
right? Now, why did
So
you choose that for your cover?
that was his first, actually, no, he was his second Ryder Cup. Ryder Cup is a prestigious golf tournament between Europe and the United States. And it was my first Ryder Cup. So that picture was really symbolic in many, many ways, because the first Ryder Cup I decided not to go because I had talking about expectations. I had a lot of expectations, and I really wanted to break free from that. So I chose not to go. And also because I bought into the hype of being famous and the glamour and winning and
Yeah.
all that energy. And so at the time I wrote the book, we were still married. So in the end of the book, I also describe how I felt like we really united in a beautiful way, and also wanted that to symbolize the picture that we were coming into union in a completely new way. But after that union, there's a new journey. We don't
Yeah.
know the journey life
Yeah.
is presenting for us. And so my next journey was to be single and live that life. So that was why I chose the picture, and it's there behind there.
An expectation that you felt. I mean, this is we put all these pressures on ourselves. And why do we do that? Because society has dictated A, B, C, and D. And it's like, but who decided that? And why are we expected to live up to that? Especially when we know that it's so self-destructive.
Yeah.
Can you show
I
me a
think,
society that lives up to that isn't paying a price for it?
yeah. We look at trees, and they are just living in their full potential most of the time, because, well, they can be sick too, and so on, and animals, but I think that's more due to our human interference. But for us, it's really looking at our blocks. What are the blocks that I'm putting up for myself, and why?
Yeah.
And expectations is a big one, and the trying to be perfect. That's a big thing, especially now. Like, and there we can just go into detail in that, in the self-perfection. It's the longing of the soul to be who it truly is. I think that's at the core. And then we misinterpret that feeling, and we think we need to be perfect in this reality, but we can never be perfect in this reality, because we're not. We're not in unity.
Yeah.
So
No, I like the word flawsome. We're beautifully flawsome. And when you look at a diamond that has a flaw in it, it's actually worth more, right? So it is our flaws that make us so utterly beautiful, because we've become awesome because of it, right?
Yeah, I love
And
that.
the word perfection, situation, oh, that's perfect. That statement is perfect because it fits the bill. But if we are looking to be perfect, we will always fail, because what's perfect in somebody else's eyes is not in another. And it's also the people pleaser, right? Trying to please everyone, bending yourself into a pretzel, becoming everything they want you to be. And again, at the expense of yourself, that you have no idea who you are, your 7 heads, and you don't identify with any of them. And
you turn out to be a wet pile on the floor.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. A melted pot of everything. And if we looked actually that the real perfection is in our true, honest soul essence of just being who you are in your flawsomeness, right? That is the true perfection of who you are, beautifully flawed, because of the experiences that you were willing to go through that has made you who you are today.
Yeah, very well said.
But again, you know, the name of this particular show, Choose Positive Living, it is a choice.
Yeah.
And if you don't choose it, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's very important to see that. And sometimes people can't see that they have a choice. It's because the darkness is, there's so much in the shadow. So there needs to be something and breaking a pattern to be able to go outside of the shadow to actually see that, oh, I was just visiting the shadow. I'm not the shadow, actually.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we are not what's happened to us, right? But what we choose to become because of it is up to us.
Yes.
So what kind of programs do you offer people? You know, what is your kind of coaching style?
Yeah, so right now I just compiled pretty much everything that I learned in my own life through different kinds of therapies, body psychotherapy. I went through training in Denmark that was based on Osho's trainings once upon a time. And then I started meditating when I was 15, and that was really something that really helped me much more than I thought, probably. So meditation, I teach meditation. And then the coaching program is really based on reminding the person through questions and through different exercises so they can find themselves within and bringing down that other aspect of ourselves, the higher self, to let that fill the body again. And so I have something called True Star Awakening, which is a training that I'm launching soon. And besides that, I do different coaching programs and one-on-one and groups. I'm also taking people to Egypt for like an ancient initiation trip in November. So that's also, I've been there 4 times for the last 2 years, and it really changed my life a lot.
How did Egypt, what does Egypt do for you?
Well, first I was called through many different kinds of spiritual events that happened. I even heard my own name being called, and then I realized it was Tutankhamun.
Yes.
I ended up going there with an author called Freddie Silva in a group of people, and then that continued until I got to a temple. And in this temple, I had a very spiritual experience with beings. I could feel them, and I can remember that I had been there many times before. And even on my phone, when I came back to the cruise ship, I had photos of these entities, and I didn't even know I had taken these photos. So that's how it's. That's how it started. So that's going to be the second book. It will be about that.
Good. You've got to come back and share that one. And I think this is something else that people need to actually understand right now. For us to think we are the highest intellect in the universe, get real. We are the kindergartners learning to be, right? And each lifetime experience of it is the discovering a beautiful essence is stepping into that nectar of being. And it's those life journeys that take us into that. And we are going to see more and more of these entities being shown to us. And you'll be surprised of how many are in human form. And we're going to see more and more of this open up because they know how destructive we can be, and we cannot afford to destroy Earth because it will throw the whole balance out. So there is an intervention coming, and it's coming through people like yourself, the teachings where they've chosen you to channel through. It's also going to be showing their own presence as well. And if we don't open our minds to it, if we go, it's like, please, the whole point of you being here is to open up your soul so it can speak to your heart. It can resonate with your spirit. It can tell your mind what you need to know when you need to know it, so that you can become the essence that you are meant to be, that beautiful tone and vibration that's meant to be on this planet that also serves the universe. So we really do need to step into that. And so I'm glad they awoken you, and I'm glad that they've connected with you, and I can't wait to hear about the next book.
Thank you. Mm.
And again,
Thank you so much.
going back from where you were to where you are now, if somebody had told you 20 years ago, you're going to write this book and then your next book is going to be that, you would have laughed, right?
Yeah, I would. And I never, ever had a thought that just that writing about that chapter, about that incident in Paris, that would have such a huge impact on, me and survivors and, in the world. I didn't think it's so important that everybody shares their stories. And
yes.
And it doesn't matter if it impacts 1 or 10 billion people.
Yes.
It's just that it will impact one person, and that's enough.
And that's the domino effect, right? Because that person will then impact the next person, and so on and so on. So, yeah. And it's I think the biggest thing is the freedom and the right to talk about it, and nobody to suppress us. And of course, what do the victimizers do? They do with their power is to pay people to intimidate, to suppress. But the thing is, and the message is, you can't suppress the truth. Everybody has to stand up and own their actions. There is no easy way out, and it's coming for you at whatever time. There is no getting away with it.
So true. Truth will set you free.
It will.
It will.
Yeah, most certainly. Now, I know you have a gift from my audience.
Yes. So I would like to offer everybody who chooses to be the 10 first people, I should say, to send me an email with a subtitle, either Orchards of Wisdom podcast or Self-Discovery Media. That's right.
Yes.
So if they would like to have my book, they can get it and I'll sign something for them. And so let's say the 10 first people that do that.
Excellent.
That would be my pleasure.
You have had to listen to the show to get it, folks. So thank you for listening and being with us. And she's gifting you this book, which is signed. And, I always find that, again, the best teachers are those that have gone through it. But when you read these stories, we've only touched the surface here today, but when you really read the stories, the biggest gift is to you, because you will resonate. Oh, this could be my story, or this happened to a friend, or this makes me understand my mother better, or all of these things that then start reflecting back on your own life, and they start opening you up, and they start showing you that, yeah, you have a story to tell. And whether you do it through a book or a podcast or just to friends or family, is that you are entitled to share your story. And you need to share it in order to release it, in order to become and choose to live positively.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that, because I really, if you're listening to this show and you are a victim of sexual abuse, either in the fashion industry or, in the movie or film industry, whatever, please come forward.
Yes.
People need to hear your story. You are important, you're valuable, and truth will set you free. And also it will help the predators they will be free too. And that's where we all are going. So thank you so much.
The only way we're going to change the tide on predators is to call them accountable that this is wrong. And the only way they're going to know it's wrong is when we stand up. And the only way they're going to heal themselves, should they choose to, is when we say no more. Right.
So true.
We've tamed, all these people that now are being held accountable, that for so long have bought silence or have intimidated the silence. And they now know there's nobody is going to be silent anymore. And we are standing up, and you are going to be accountable. That's part of your journey, to be accountable. It's part of our freedom to release ourselves from that and no longer be the victim or suppressed by it. And also, anybody that wants to use the J word, judgment, go and talk to your mirror first before you pass judgment on anyone else. Sticks and stones will break the glass in anybody's glass house. So that judgment comes from an ignorance, or it comes from a self-righteousness, or it comes from a place of feeling that you are more than anyone else. If somebody has been through a journey of any form of sexual abuse on any level, they are the people that have been victimized, and you shouldn't judge them because of what they wore or where they were or who they trusted or anything else, because nobody has the right to do that to them.
And I'd
And
like to add to that when you said judgment, because the reason why we're judging is really because we're fearful. We don't
yeah,
understand. We don't understand what that is. So we're actually very scared.
yes,
And I think that's why we're judging, because we haven't explored that part of ourselves yet. So we don't understand it. So that also needs to be, people who don't understand, I'm also wanting to be compassionate with them,
yeah.
because the first reaction is like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to know. I
Mm.
want to be blind. But that's okay. Baby steps. So,
Baby steps.
mm,
And if you could try to understand, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, right?
mm,
Nobody goes about life, oh, I want to be a victim, right? I'm going to do everything I can to be victimized, or I want to be gay, or I want to be this, or I want to be that. It's a hard road for them. And for
mm,
some people, they can't help being who they are. And some people, due to their circumstances, are in the wrong place with the wrong
mm-hmm,
people. And as you said, if we show compassion without the judgment, then everybody heals better. Everyone,
mm, mm-hmm,
right? And I
mm,
think we could see a lot more compassion in the world for ourselves. Why do I feel judgment? What is it about me that feels judgment?
mm,
Am I passing judgment on myself? Where
mm-hmm,
is that judgment coming from? Be willing to ask yourself the
yeah.
questions and take those steps to moving forward into healing. And if everybody did, imagine what kind of world we would
Oh my
have.
gosh, I hope that's where we're going.
I believe it is where we're
I think
going. I
so.
believe
It's
that
my
that
intention.
that that
Mm,
scale is changing that way, and I believe we're going to see an escalation of that.
mm,
But also the disruption that we're seeing in the world right now is the pushback against that, right? And the more that they protest and the louder that they go, the more actually it's propelling the other action.
it really is, and so true. And I wish more people could understand that.
Yeah.
That's more we push to one side, the other side will push against.
Yes.
It's the natural law of the universe.
Right.
Mm,
Exactly. And
mm,
we are awesome, we are flawsome, and it doesn't matter what has happened to us, it's happened for us to grow and to be that
mhm,
beautiful, awesome person we're meant to be, and just be willing to take the journey, right?
yeah.
And so they can reach out to you to have maybe a consultation about the coaching.
Yes. So actually, if they're interested in the coaching, if you go to my website, it's actually being next week, hopefully launching a new site, truestarcoaching.com, and or follow me on Instagram at truestarcoaching. So I try to follow up and meet people there. But for the book, they can just send me an email at Ebba at truestarcoaching, and Ebba, EBBA, at truestarcoaching.com.
And what is this Victorious Angels?
Oh yeah, so Victorious Angels is the organization that we founded. As when we started working together, I found out that I wasn't alone
Mm,
as a victim, and we came together, and several of us, and this has launched into many more coming together, and we're
mm,
working in different groups now. One here in the States, together with more of the Model Alliance, and some other of us in Europe. So right now we're still are up against this case with Gerald Marie. We have seen that Jean-Luc Brunel, who was a friend of Epstein, and now Gerald Marie, we have new proofs that he was also involved with these two people. So we are right now trying to change the law in Europe, and actually, how do you say, removing the statute of limitation if
mm.
we can.
Yes.
And then also, of course, we have a case against Gerald Marie, and we're
Good.
hopefully looking for more women within the statute of limitations so he can be convicted.
Yeah. Well, in the case
Mm,
of Nygaard, it was 10 women that eventually came through. Eventually, when they
mm,
opened up the floodgates, there's so many women that came forward, they couldn't cope with it. And, going back to the 70s,
yeah.
and it
Mm,
was like, a predator doesn't just become a predator. They are
mm,
always a predator.
yeah.
And, they didn't just suddenly start doing it. Um, they just got more opulent in the way they did it.
Yeah.
And so look back to the origins, and you'll see that they've been doing it a long time.
Yeah,
So,
it's been going on a long time.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And doesn't mean it has to still keep going on, because the
Yeah.
more aware we are, the more we talk about it, the more we say to them, it's not acceptable. We will not go quietly into the night, right? We will stand up for our brothers and sisters. The less freedom they have to get away with it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So the more we empower ourselves and that voice. And, for some people, it might be actually a sexual disease of, compulsion, in which
Yeah.
case they need help.
Yeah.
And if
That's
they
true
can get
too.
the help early, then there may be hope for them. So,
Hmm.
it's again, why are they the way they are? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, probably they're themselves abused. That's very likely.
Yes,
Mm.
most likely,
Hmm.
because that generally is the common thing there, that drives them as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's truestarcoaching.com or
Hmm.
victoriousangels.com.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's Ebba at EBBA at truestarcoaching.com for the books.
Yes.
And anybody who wants to get a hold of you, if they want to book a time with you,
Hmm.
to see how that coaching works. But please, folks, you are not meant to do it alone. This is your journey. It's your life. You have got to participate in your life. There are people like Beth there that are going to help you on that journey of life with skills, with tools that you can apply, with support, with camaraderie, that's going to help you on your journey of life. But you've got to be willing to participate. It's not somebody doing it for you. It's somebody helping you do it for yourself.
Very true.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's so wonderful to talk to you.
Folks, we never know what somebody's gone through. More and more we see today people in the limelight coming through with the sexual abuse that they've gone through. We look at them on their pedestal, we look at them at the top of their game, and we think nothing's ever happened to them. They've got it all in the bag. And then we start seeing all the background stuff. It just shouldn't happen anymore, and it won't happen if we keep talking about it and free ourselves, support ourselves, show compassion to each other, and just to let people know they're not alone. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Please tune in to our selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows, and you will see all the other genres that we have from you. Every week on Tuesday, we bring you new shows from illuminating people. If you know someone that should be interviewed, please contact us at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com. Now stay tuned for your next show.